Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. What a morning, what an afternoon we've had on a February Sunday where seems like the world is melting down after the Oilers lose to the Leafs. I understand that normally that makes us a little antsy a little bit there, but the absolute pandemonium in the comments sections across YouTube when it contains to the Edmonton Oilers has been quite something today. You'd swear that the goaltending has us in 30th overall, not 3rd overall. So we're going to talk about kind of maybe some upgrades to this Oilers team right now that could get us going into 1st overall, not 3rd. I guess 3rd's not good enough, and fair be it by me, who was complaining about the line shuffling yesterday. So let's discuss the Edmonton Oilers trade deadline needs ranked today as of Sunday, February 2nd, as we are just a month and a week away from the NHL trade deadline. So stay tuned. If you are new to the channel, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button today. Ignore the cat. You know how this always goes. Anytime I hit that record button, he starts losing his mind. Just must be something about my voice. I know some of you have a problem with my voice too. So there you go. You got a compatriot with the cat. All right, let's go here. Let's go over to the number 5 trade deadline need for the Edmonton Oilers. Well, it's quite simple. One thing the Oilers appear to be lacking, and it's only at times. Honestly, there's a lot of times I'm like, oh, the Oilers' boots are just fine, but at times there are moments where you're like, that extra little step would have been nice. So a little bit more speed for the Oilers at the trade deadline would not be a bad thing. Some of these things you can kind of throw together, but a little bit more speed for the Oilers simply because we watched what Vegas did to us in 2023. The faster they were, and same with Florida to some degree in the Stanley Cup final until we finally calmed down and just started playing our games 4 through 6. The faster you are, the harder you are to catch. That's an easy way to summarize why you need more speed in the lineup. If you're the Edmonton Oilers, it's quite simple. Is just go out there and move your feet and good things happen, right? And obviously, the faster you are, the harder you are to catch. The more tripping calls, the more slashing calls, the more all the calls hooking you end up drawing. So that's just a simple trade deadline need that I think every Stanley Cup contender is going to be saying they need right now. So we go over to deadline need number 4, and well, right now the Oilers lacking an Evander Kane-sized threat in the lineup. Well, let me tell you, that guy is coming back soon, so maybe we don't need the toughness and size, but when it comes to that 4th line center role, having an upgrade on Noah Philp might not be the worst thing if Chris Knoblauch's already scratching him in favor of Matthias Janmark. Now, that said, Noah Philp could be sick. I don't know. There's a whole thing going on with this Edmonton Oilers team, but toughness and size when it comes to playoffs, as long as they're moving their boots, is never a bad thing, right? I ultimately would be toughness, size, and speed all in one player you'd like to get, but again, who's giving those guys away? Those guys don't grow on trees either, so can't rely on Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to do it all in the playoffs because, well, as we've seen year in, year out, they'll end up hurt, whether it's being targeted by another team or whether it's getting hurt themselves in a collision. So you got to be careful. You got to have that toughness and size in the lineup, and that's one thing the Edmonton Oilers right now are lacking. Evander Kane solves a lot of that. A deadline acquisition for a big-time defenseman would solve a little bit of that as well. The deadline need number 3 for the Edmonton Oilers, a backup 3rd goalie. So whether you want a guy to kind of steady the load with Stuart Skinner behind him, Stuart Skinner in front and then a guy behind him in the pecking order, and then Calvin Pickard in there to steady it out with a 3-goalie tandem going into the playoffs, sure. But it's got to be someone with proven playoff experience. That's again why I'm never sitting here claiming John Gibson should replace Stuart Skinner, but I'm telling you, John Gibson is not a bad 3rd option if you're looking for a guy to work around with Pickard and Skinner, right? Obviously, Gibson's a guy who he's not over the hills yet, and he's a guy who has a lot of talent to give to an Oilers lineup, and I know there's tons of other goalies out there. I know Jonathan Quick keeps getting mentioned. Anybody with proven playoff performances in the past that would be capable if called upon in the NHL playoffs, because even though Pickard had a great game against Vancouver to keep us in the series, it's not like he alone would have won us the Stanley Cups. So that's where, again, end of the day is you need someone with a little bit of extra, and Pickard's got it when needed, but you can't count on him all day. He's a career backup. And as well, Stuart Skinner might not have it all day either. And if one of those two guys get hurt, you need a third guy that can shoulder the load. So that's the number 3 deadline acquisition. So that's going to leave you scratching your head. If we got 2 more to go, what's number 1? Well, we'll talk about it. I'm kind of targeting what the chat of the day has been today. For the Oilers, a top 4 right side defenseman to help Ekholm and Nurse. You saw last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs, now that they've caved in the fragile egos that most of us Edmonton Oilers fans have about our team. Well, you know what? Yeah, we need a top 4 D-man, because look at how bad the Leafs exposed us without Ekholm in the lineup. Oh my goodness, we looked absolutely awful. And that is to not blame Stuart Skinner. That is to blame the guys standing around in front of the net, not clearing the front of the net, allowing guys to find pucks in front. Again, you want to blame Stu for all 4? That's fine. You're wrong. You want to blame Stu for half of them? Okay, fine. But the Oilers' defense, yikes, they could have done a much better job last night, and they simply just did not. So a number 4 or a top 4 D-man, because John Klingberg ain't going to do the job. The Oilers desperately need to find somewhere to upgrade in that situation. And you know what? It's great what Emberson brings to the table, and really it's going to be a competition down the stretch between Emberson and Klingberg. Klingberg is not guaranteed that top 4 spot based on what we've seen so far. He's light years behind where he needs to be down this stretch for the Edmonton Oilers, trying to finish first in the Pacific Division. So that leaves us with the number 1 need. Where do the Oilers really lack? Well, again, everybody is so amped to get rid of Stuart Skinner or make him a backup or send him to the minors, or that guy's only an Oilers goalie because he's from Edmonton. There's so many excuses as to why Stuart Skinner is bad, and so many things that people just don't like about him. I'll tell you, the number 1 thing I don't like about Stuart Skinner is his goalie coach. That's as simple as it is. The number 1 need for the Oilers at the trade deadline is to finally figure it out as an organization and ship off the longest tenured coach. Yeah, everyone will always ask me, man, I wonder what it is about Glenn Gulutzan that's kept him around Edmonton for so long. Glenn Gulutzan has stayed around Edmonton because he's been successful here. Dustin Schwartz has not been successful as the Edmonton Oilers goalie coach. Name one goalie that has gotten better when coming to Edmonton as opposed to where they were before. I can sit here and wait. I will let this video run for 15 minutes, and I will sit here in silence while the comments section fills up with goalies that have gotten better when they come to Edmonton. Because guess what? I will sit here and waste as much of my time because you cannot come up with a single name. The Oilers, from my time watching them, you know, Cam Talbot came here and got overplayed and burnt out and then was absolutely terrible and got shipped out and went on to be a pretty good goaltender for the rest of his career so far. I think you look at Mikko Koskinen, right? He was fantastic at times, but inconsistent, same as Talbot. And then you look at Stuart Skinner, who's fantastic but inconsistent. You look at Mike Smith, who is fantastic but inconsistent. There's a continual word, and the word inconsistency gets used a lot with Stuart Skinner. I'm sorry, there has not been a single goaltender under Dustin Schwartz that has been consistent. So if you want to see the maximum return for value at the trade deadline in terms of the goaltending department, I'm going to tell you a new goalie coach will solve that for you. And that's not to say everybody is going to say, oh man, you're calling for somebody to lose their job. How rude is that? I'm sorry. Again, go into a business sense, sit there at work, and put yourself in these shoes. Dustin Schwartz, from all accounts, is a great guy, awesome in the room, all that. Might be funny, might be caring, whatever adjective you want to use to describe the man, he might be that. He is not a good goalie coach. And, you know, if your boss kept telling you, hey, we keep that guy around not because he's good at his job. Actually, he really sucks and costs us a lot of money every single game or day. But he's funny. We like that guy. He's funny. That's why we keep him. If that's what your boss is telling you, I'm going to guarantee you, you are upset with that every single day you go home and you're crying and complaining about it. So to yell at me for crying and complaining that Dustin Schwartz loses his job is kind of ludicrous in that sense. So we will just simply say, friends, the need for the Edmonton Oilers ranked here, and it's been a need. The reason why it's the number 1 deadline need is it needs to happen at some point here, because I will tell you, Stuart Skinner instantly improves if you get rid of Dustin Schwartz. I mean, there's nowhere else to go. If you think he's a minor league backup, a new goalie coach can only make him better, right? If this guy's absolutely making him terrible, well, somebody's got to be able to do something better than Dustin Schwartz. At least that would be the common going theory. So that's the number one deadline need. And then you got number two, a top four right side defenseman to help Ekholm and Nurse. Yes, that is a huge, huge need. You saw what the Leafs did to the Oilers without Ekholm in the lineup. We win that game with Ekholm in the lineup, I tell you that. Backup third goalie with proven playoff experience. Yeah, you know what? Even if you fix Stu, you still only have two goalies on this roster. You need a third one because Ollie Rodriguez is not going to win you a Stanley Cup if Stuart Skinner or Cal Pickard go down in round one. I'm going to tell you that because we haven't given him any NHL time, and even if we did, Dustin Schwartz probably would mess up that assignment too. Number four deadline need, toughness and size. Well, we know Evander Kane's coming back, so hopefully that's part of the equation, but not all the equation. Trent Frederick, go check out that video here on the channel. It'll be in the end cards at the end of the video. And more speed of obviously anytime you can get guys that move their boots in the lineup, that is going to help you. So there you have it. The top five Edmonton Oilers needs at the deadline ranked. Friends, it's been a day, and whether I'm poking fun at the situation and you don't like that, I don't care because, you know what, end of the day is the Oilers have needs. Goaltending in terms of a number one is not one if you would just solve the biggest problem in Edmonton, which is the goaltending coach. Honestly, we gotta stop the circle. Let's talk about the elephant in the room and get on with our lives. Have a great day. I think I'm done.